Hey y'all, what's going on? So today we just wanted to do a quick little demo here. Just wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that I've been working on. Just want to show you the new, obviously, we got the new F2 Ultra UV edition coming. It's right here. That'll be releasing in just about 10 days. So just want to say if you didn't get your deposit in yet, you might want to do that. Pay attention here. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll try to monitor that as I go. But I am a one-man team here, so I don't exactly have a moderation team. So I'll do my best. But I'll always review the questions after, and we can go ahead and I'll catch up if I miss anything. But so I just wanted to talk to you guys real quick about the UV laser in general. So one of my favorite things, obviously, to do with the UV laser is glass. It is the best laser that I have ever used for glass. I have another UV laser also, and while it does work, they're both 5 watt UV lasers. So they're as far as like power goes and the ability to do objects like speed and all that stuff, they're about the same. They're both 5 watt UV lasers. So they're gonna have the same like output capability. But the biggest distinction between xTool and the other one that I have is that xTool is all enclosed. That is a huge, huge thing. Because if you look at where I have the other one in the shop, I get actually glass dust all over, even with the suction. I have an external fan system. And it works really well. It's one of the 6-inch ones, and I still get glass dust everywhere. So this one being enclosed is going to keep you safer, and the people around you safer. Because one of the other things is you can't see UV; it's ultraviolet. So you're not gonna notice it beaming at a laser like you would a blue beam from a diode or things like that. Which I'm going to cover this too, but that does pose a little bit of a challenge when you're trying to do some of your lining up, or just lining the objects up and all that jazz. So with that, I'm going to go over a couple little tricks that I use, and then not to spoil too much, but I do have my unboxing video, and I'll have a full like kind of demo video with a bunch of stuff. But some of the projects I've been working on with this so far have been glass. I've done the crystal, obviously, because that's, the subsurface crystal. My other UV laser cannot do that. So that was a really cool thing for me. I did make, it did take a little bit of trial and error for me. The first time I did it, I didn't have it set up right. I didn't have a good image file. I'm going to do a tutorial on how to create an image that'll work for the subsurface also. That'll be going forward probably in the next like month or so. I've done Christmas ornaments. I mean, I'm sure if y'all are engravers, y'all are familiar with these Christmas ornaments. So I ended up doing this one just to be fancy with it. I did this one on the Rotary. So this one was done with the F2 UV on the RA3, and then I obviously backfilled it with the red paint. So these are a huge difference in the quality. I don't get any chipping. That is one of the fundamental best things about the UV laser. It's nicknamed a cold laser. So it doesn't use heat to break down the material, which is why it's great for plastics. It's good for doing wood without that charring. It's obviously good for glass. So you could do a ton of different materials. One of my other things that I've done is leatherette, and I'll run the thing live too. So I just seen the question come across about fabric. Well, leatherette. This patch actually has not been cleaned up at all. This is just how it came off the machine. This is how it was cut. This is the edge that was left with the UV laser. This is the detail that you get. So with that, you could see that there's not a lot of smoke. There's not a lot of charring. There's not burning. but there is some great detail with that. Now, that to me is unbeatable. And the fact that it's portable too, that's huge. As far as I seen the question come across about can you engrave these in the plastic unbreakable ornaments? So one of the things I would suggest is figure out what is in the plastic first. Certain plastics you can do. You don't want to do anything PVC. That's across the board. You don't want to do anything PVC because then you're releasing chlorine gas, regardless of how you're doing it. So, but things like battery chargers and things like that, as long as you check that it's laser safe, you should be good to go. I've done my like iPod cases and things like that with my other UV laser, so you're good to go with that kind of stuff. Now, while it can, a big contrast between my other one over here, this F2 Ultra MOPA here, is that while it can mark on metal, it's not going to do like the challenge coins and the depth engravings and things like that that the F2 Ultra really shines in. So to give you a little contrast or comparison, that's one of the bigger things. So like you can't do the challenge coins, the depth and things like that into metal. However, you can do it into glass, which is really cool. Because I added some depth to show you that. So this is one of my favorite things to do with my UV lasers. Put a little logo on the bottom of your cup and add a little bit of depth to it. It's actually like you could actually see it's a raised texture. And it adds a really cool effect because when you're drinking something, especially at the shop here, when I have guests here, whether it's coffee, water, other things like bourbon, you look down, you see the bottom of the cup. It's a really cool gift, and this is something that the UV laser shines at. There's no coating either. That means you don't need to spray it with anything. You don't need to, airbrush tempera paint like I used to have to do with the diode lasers. You don't have to use marking spray, nothing. So one of the questions I just seen come across was the 3D prints. Yeah, 3D prints. I've done 3D print marking and polymers like that on even the F2 Ultra, but this is going to definitely do a really good job without melting it at all. You're not going to get any of that. Like if you go too high on the power, you get a little bit of melting. You're not going to get that with the UV light. I just seen a question with engraving times. The engraving times are pretty reasonable. I mean, for a hat patch like this with the detail, including the cutting of it, which while you can do the cutting when I'm doing my hat patches, when I was doing them on the F2 Ultra, while you can do the cutting with it, it wasn't my favorite thing to do because it would always not cut the adhesive fully or something like that. Even with the cutting, this was 5 minutes with all that detail, and that's multiple passes because the way I had this set up. So some other things that I've done, obviously, this polish it up real quick. So some little test things that I've done is like this 3D crystal here. The one on the right on this side didn't come out as good, but that was because of that was like the file itself. But then I did the one in the center here, and I think that came out really good. You can see all of the details and all that. So it did that in, I think that was about 10 minutes it took to do that internal engraving. One of the key things you need to do is if you're going to be doing the crystal engraving, first of all, place your pre-order deposit so you get the inner marking kit that comes with it. Comes with this stand, which you need to raise it up. And it also comes with a second lens. So with that second lens, you just swap them out, it pops up in there, and you're ready to roll with the crystal engraving. So with that, if you place your pre-order deposit, they are giving that for free. I'm not sure what the status of that is going to be after, if it's going to be an accessory or whatever, but that is what you need to do the 3D like crystal engraving, the subsurface stuff. That itself, I ordered as soon as I did one, I ended up ordering a ton of the crystal blocks. Now you can't do this necessarily in like regular glass. It has to be the specific stuff. I did order some on Amazon that claimed to be the K9 crystal, and it wasn't. So be wary about that. I am going to start stocking it in my shop. I have a couple hundred on the way that I ordered yesterday. They should be here at the end of the month. I did pay for the quick shipping on that. So those are some of the projects I've been doing. Some other things I've cut wood, done that. I've done a lot of photo engraving actually. And so check that out. So one of the biggest things with the one's cap by the way, with the UV laser is the dot size. That's extremely fine detail in there. This ornament took about 10 minutes or 7 minutes, something like that. Totally custom though. I did a photo engrave and I did a vector outside. It would have been a little quicker if I would have done it all one type, but I wanted to make sure it was switched up. Just so I could test settings for vector as well as PNG. Another thing that I've done, sure, if y'all are tuning into this, since y'all know me a little bit, tumblers. Yes, you can do tumblers. Yes, you can do glasses also, obviously. But I just knocked out a photo engraving on this tumbler, and the photorealism is probably one of the best. And this was not the best photo because it was an older photo that I had to work with, but like the detail in the actual engraving is crazy for it being on a tumbler. That was one of my favorite. I mean, this is one of my favorite results yet, just because the level of detail. And I like to mass produce items. Yeah. Like logos, things like that. That's great. But like when I'm doing something custom, like as a gift or for a client that, needs to mean something, a memorial piece, something of that nature, I really want to knock it out of the park and, do something with detail that's better than, you can get from most other places. I really want to push the limits of what can be done with these lasers. And given how I've seen that work, I have a lot of confidence that we'll be able to really push some boundaries with it. I do see that we have questions about the RA2 and RA3. So it is compatible with both. I did do all of this stuff just because I wanted to test it. I did do all of this stuff on the RA3. I do love the RA3 because of the little grippies, these little magnetic pieces, so I can go from doing a tumbler to pop these pegs out, go down here, do an ornament, change the sizing up in a hurry. And I have I bought multiple chuck heads, so you can just pop these out. So I'm all about saving time. I don't like to waste time when I'm here, even though I waste a lot of time, hanging out, chatting on Facebook. But I like to spend my time on Facebook rather than messing around with extra stuff. So I always buy more equipment and the most equipment that I need. But with those multiple chuck heads, you'll be able to do stuff on that. And it will also work with the RA2. One thing I am checking on is what the compatibility is with the original F1 Ultra conveyor. I have not got a confirmation on that yet. I do believe it will work because it worked with the F2 Ultra, but I do want to get some confirmation before I say, hey, it's going to work. As far as acrylic goes, that was really cool. So I'm still working on dialing in the settings for the tri-layer acrylic that I like to work with. But I was able to do some super small detail on none other than tri-layer acrylic. Not only that, I was able to cut it out right after. So with that, I was able to knock out acrylic and super detailed. That's going to be, the common thing here. It's not going to be as fast because you have to do, I do a higher lines per centimeter. It's not going to be as fast as like a CO2, but it's also going to be exponentially more detailed. The dot size is way smaller, so you need to do more passes, that kind of thing. So I've done mirrored acrylic. I don't have it here. I did just put it over on my other thing, but you can do mirrored acrylic. You can do the backs of mirrors, things like that. That shouldn't be an issue at all. So, I mean, the UV laser, the main things you're not going to be able to do, you're not going to be able to do like the 3D depth engravings on metal. It's not meant to do that. But you can mark metal. You can mark metal in very high resolution nonetheless. So while it's not going to replace my F2 Ultra, it's going to complement it. That's why they're next to each other. Perfect. So compared to my other laser though, and compared to my other UV, I was able to get a lot. It was a lot easier. I cannot stress that enough to get good results in a hurry. I mean, xTool's kind of known for making things a lot easier, and they did the thing with this. So they, with the camera system, I can show you like quick little preview here. So we'll just pull up the glass that I had in there. You can check this out. That camera system in here, if I go ahead and we'll put that patch down there in it. And I'll go ahead and hit refresh. Actually, might as well switch over to the patch and do it. But that camera system in there is spot on. I mean, I line things up with it and I just let it do its thing. I obviously also do the framing. That's a key thing. It still has the framing and all that. So you do want to be mindful of that. The camera still is going to be good for a very close ballpark, but I always compare it, or I always double check everything with my with the framing option, just to make sure it's dead on. Awesome. We did just get the German side did say that it is compatible with the conveyor, so that's good to know. I knew it was compatible with a conveyor. I just wasn't sure if it's only with the new one or if it's with the existing one from the F1 Ultra days also. I do know you will need a new bracket because it does have the same footprint as the F2 Ultra, because it is an F2 Ultra. It's just UV versus the other one. So it's the same RA3 as the P3. So while I bought multiple because I use all of mine all the time, it is the same one. You just pop it over. That glass ornament that I showed, that ornament that I showed, they were both glass. I didn't do clear acrylic on an ornament yet. We'll go ahead and while we're chatting about some questions here, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and set it up, and we will cut a patch. So I just got to get my have our handy dandy honeycomb here. So while we're doing this, I like to, when I'm doing any of my cutting, I obviously put this down, or you can get the base plate that I have. Either way, you want to get a little honeycomb or something like this to raise it up, so you're not marking into your bed. Next thing we'll do. Go ahead. I haven't tested this yet. I actually haven't tested this material, but this specific glow in the dark from Lone Star. So I do want to test it because I did a different patch yesterday with this design, and it came out really cool with like it almost looked like a white tiger stripe, and I want to see what it looks like glowing. So one of the things that you'll notice, I'm gonna go ahead and get my other camera up for y'all, this way you can see what I'm doing in here. Should take a second. It should kick on. Yeah, there you go. So view. One of the things to notice is like that dot, that is the actual UV light. Now, one of the tricks that I use a fluorescent piece of shield here. And then you can see how on that shield that that UV light, you know, just really shows really bright. So you could do that. Or another trick that I use instead of doing that, like if I was doing the glass and I wanted to see where I was marking, get yourself a highlighter. I got these little small ones, but you can get, I do suggest getting like the big office, the thicker ones with the big blunt chisel tips, so you can cover it. And all I would do is mark that on my glass, and then the UV light will actually, you'll see it really bright. I'll kind of show that real quick. So there it is. All I did was draw on it with a little bit of the UV here. So if I pop back over to that camera, what you'll see is on the glass, there's that blue light without it. There's with that bit of green there. So do you see how much more that pops? So when you're lining things up and doing your framing, if you're doing glass and you take a little UV or a little highlighter, you'll be able to see that so much more, especially when you're framing quick. So just wanted to show you that real quick. Now we'll go ahead and I'm going to go and do the auto measure. So we'll go ahead and jump in there, do our auto measure, close our lid down. Let's throw that on there. Process material. I created some settings for it, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw those in there. I'm going to do this one as a cut. So I'm going to go and click apply. So I'm going to pick my black layer here. I'm going to set that to black engrave. I want this to be a little bit more muted. So this is for my, these are the settings that I used on my lime or my army green patch here. So we're going to see how good they work on this, but we'll just have to put in our cut settings. 115, 240, there we go. And I'm just going to save these as my cut layer settings real quick. Auto measure. Did the lid have the same spring? It didn't have a spring problem at all. No, it just kind of sits closed. I didn't have any issues with the springs at all. I'm gonna go ahead and do. And now we'll go ahead and run this. Again, these were my settings for that army green, so we're gonna see how this works live. I really wanted this this be that glow in the dark one, so we'll go ahead and run that. It's gonna take about 5 minutes. Now, one thing I did notice right off the rip that I didn't do this time, that I should have, that would have sped the process up quite a bit, is I turned on smart engraving when I initially did it. I didn't do that on this one. So that'll just be part of it. If y'all got any questions while we're watching this one go, let's go ahead and throw those questions up in the chat. But that's correct. It only has a UV laser. So this is a strictly UV laser. Now, UV itself has the ability to do to to go ahead and do a lot more materials than, you know, most other lasers anyways. But it is just the UV laser. It doesn't have like a 40-watt diode UV combo. Now, one of the things that I got a question about is, well, why don't you get a 10-watt or a 15-watt? One of the biggest things for me personally was I like the portability of this. I can take this when I go. I often, especially during this holiday season, I go to liquor stores and I ask, you know, I have contacts that are liquor store owners, and I ask to just set up in the shop. And then if a client wants a bottle engraved, I just engrave the bottle right on site. Done. So I could do that right as, you know, in public without worrying about that as much if I have that enclosure. If I don't have the enclosure, I got to worry about all sorts of stuff. My other one was open frame. I used to have to pick them up and bring them back. Another thing is the ventilation. That's a key thing. Obviously, the eye protection. But just, you know, the ability to do this kind of on the fly with the cameras and all that, and the laser for alignment and all that stuff, it makes it such a big difference with that. Another thing, the reason I didn't get that 5 or the 10-watt or the 15-watt, portability. If you get it up into the 10 and 15 watts, you need a chiller. I didn't want to deal with having a chiller, another liquid cooled thing in the shop that I have to carry around, tote with me if I have to go places. So this was the perfect form factor for what I'm using it for. I will be getting a second one because I do like doing the glasses on it, and it does the glass really well. Now, if you did get like a higher wattage one, obviously it will more power, faster it'll go. But I haven't had an issue. I'm getting glasses done in like 3-4 minutes on them. That's given glass itself, a blank glass costs, you know, $1 or $2. The profit margin is still plenty there. Does it cut any color acrylic? Yeah, I can imagine it would cut any. I've tested it with a white acrylic and a black acrylic, and it cut both of those. I can see what other pieces of acrylic I have over in my scrap pile, and we could try to cut those too if you want. We might go ahead and jump and do that in a minute after this one gets done. We'll go ahead and show you the progress we got going on there. It's just kind of, it's going to go ahead and roll and do its thing with that. And then it's going to do another pass for the inside. One of my favorite other things that, about this, you know, just the UV laser in general, that I've found so far is I could do a lot more shading, especially when I'm doing my leatherette. Like I can get different colors in the patches that I couldn't achieve with my CO2 or my fiber accurately. Like that right there, that muted green look on there, that compared to the one that I did on my CO2, they're two totally different colors. Now, you could also see on the back of the CO2 one, you get a lot of dust, dirt, debris, and you got to clean it up. This is straight off the machine. I didn't even clean this one up. So that was a big thing for me. I did see somebody asked about tumblers again. I did do tumblers earlier. This was the first tumbler that I tried. So it's right off the bat, kind of made an educated guess. And on these, I read the word coded. I made an educated guess on the tumbler settings and just ran with it. And for a photo, that's, I'll take that for my first try. As far as the exhaust goes, yes, it has the exhaust. We're going to go ahead and grab this out here. So I'm going to show y'all right out of the machine. So it looks like I probably could with this glow in the dark white. I probably could have done another pass on the centerpiece, but overall looks pretty good. And you see it cut, no mess up on those glue edges, no charring on that, nothing funky with that. So aside from the fact that I could have done one more pass to get that dark black that I wanted, I think this one came out pretty good. So that's just a matter of me dialing in the setting for it. So in a true UV, like in other UV lasers, there is no power. It is just on. So in other UV lasers, they don't have a power setting. You just change the Q pulse and the frequency in order to effectively change the power. With xTools, you actually get a power setting. So it's the same as you're going to be used to. It's a power percentage, dot duration, all that. You'll be able to see all that stuff there. And one of the things, anybody who does use my pre-order, I'm gonna have a little quick start tutorial video for you guys you just gotta drop me a message and tell me to use my pre-order, and I'll make sure you guys get that that like pre-starter guide where I'll have a bunch of settings and different stuff on there for y'all. One of the things I did want to point out, like this was how I used to cut when I used to cut it on my F2 Ultra. This is one of my earlier testing, but you got like that funky edge on the glue, and I didn't like that. I didn't like cutting on it, but with F2 UV, get those real nice edges right there. Go ahead. I have not done real leather on it yet, although I could. I'm sure it will still smell. I mean, you're still in effect engraving on, skin, animal skin. So I'm sure it will still have some smell. So proper ventilation is a good idea. But I usually do my actual leather stuff over there on my P3s, just because I've actually done the leather on that, and I do not get a smell because the IF2 works so well with that. They already have the stuff for the glass blocks. I did show that earlier. So this is this is my test glass block that I did. I created a 3D model of my lovely fiance and I when we got engaged, and went ahead and did that engraving. So this is obviously my test piece. Can't judge it on it. It was my first. This one was my first try. This one was my second try. The second try came out pretty darn good. So that is just a matter of in the software, go ahead and put it in there and let that rip. And if you guys want to see any of this, like in a more where you want to ask a bunch of questions or you have like anything like that, I went ahead and put my link to book a free demo through xTool Squad. I put a link to book a free demo with me on the F2 Ultra UV. Well, you can do the F2 if you want. You can do the P3. You can do the P2s. You can do the metal fab. You can do the apparel printer. I have them all. I kind of an xTool addict in a way. So, yeah. So if you wanted to book a demo where you want to just sit chit chat, ask some questions, maybe dial in some specific settings or test some different things, in a more formal kind of way, one-on-one, just go ahead and the link is in the description here. You can go ahead and book just a session with that, and they are free right now. Yeah, I went ahead and I did order 100 glass blocks. So yeah, I will have those for sale on my website when the time comes. I'm going to order more also. I just ordered 100 on a very not cheap shipping option because I wanted them sooner than later. The question is, so obviously clear acrylic will be good on this as well. And then if it can, all the glass, and better than the P2S for clear acrylic. For the P2S for clear, it's not. Now, let's be clear, like just to be clear about something with clear. The the UV light, the F2 UV isn't going to be my cutting laser. I don't particularly I don't seek out unless I'm at a show or like an event or I have to use it. I try not to use my Galvo lasers for cutting. Just because they're not the most ideal solution for the cutting, in my opinion. And well, most opinions, because you know, when you get away, the further you get away from the center, you can have those you have that little the tapers on the edge. You know, they're just slanted. You kind of don't want to do that. So when you're cutting the thicker stuff, in general, anytime I'm doing cutting, if I have the option, I'm going to use my CO2. I'm going to use my P3 for that, or my P2. No, not you, Crystal. I do see your laughing emoji. xTool is not carrying you, but xTool will be carrying the crystal blocks eventually. I don't know any details or specifics on when or any of that. I did ask because I did want to try to order some in a hurry if I could from them, but they didn't have those yet. Engraving, more, yeah. When you're doing the engraving on the F2 UV, I do believe it will be a much finer result, just because the way the glass was on it. I mean, you get such a smaller dot size. Your dot size is like I believe it's 1/10, if I remember correctly, of what the P2 or the P3 would be as far as a CO2 laser dot size. It is exponentially smaller of a dot size. That being said, you need to do more, like I said, a smaller dot, you need to do more passes to remove the material. However, you're going to be able to get much, much, much more detail. What else we got? We can go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead. I'll do an ornament real quick, just because I had that file up. Set that up. I feel like that'll be a good demonstration. Plate out of the way. And it will. The cable does plug in the same way as your if you have the regular, the F2 Ultra, the MOPA. It plugs in the exact same way. We'll go ahead and get that file opened up. Start showing you. I'll show you all that. Question: Can the F2 Ultra UV do everything the F2 Ultra can do? No. You're not. The F2 UV is not going to be the metal cutting metal. It's not meant to cut metal or do the depth engraving in metal. That is where the MOPA shines. That is, you know, kind of what. That's why I have all types of lasers. And I have, I think, 18 at the shop currently, or 19 now. But like, one of the main things is I don't try to Swiss Army knife my lasers here. I use whatever the best laser is for the job. While there is overlap, and you know, a lot of lasers can do the other things like almost equally as good. UV laser shines with glass and detail. They have two Ultra, the MOPA here. That's going to get you the best metal engraving. When I'm doing tumblers, as far as batches of tumblers, I'm using my P3. When I'm cutting large objects or cutting in general, I use my P3. Obviously, the metal fab is going to cut my thick steel, and well, I have the apparel printer. None of my lasers can print apparel. I've already kind of set this up because I did the one earlier. It is currently limited to the 400 millimeters a second. So that's what I kind of dialed in some settings for. I don't think it read that right. You're going to get the same thing when you use the auto measure. If it can't get a good read, you will have to manually overlap it. That happens with the reflective stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to engrave this little wrap here on this ornament. Set up some. I'll go ahead and hit process. We'll let this thing run while real quick while we do that. All right, so while that's rolling, go ahead and check out your other questions. I'm trying to get either the F2 or thinking about the Ultra UV, which is better for a business if I already have the F1 Ultra and the P3. I don't ever like to tell people what they should buy for their business because not everybody's business is the same. And this is kind of one of the things I talk about in my subscription calls. I have a monthly subscription thing, share tons of settings. We have free designs every month. You get support from me, all that stuff. But on those calls, we talk about this often because what works for you and what works for me and what works for the third person is it's going to be, it may be completely different. You might not have a big market for glass. So I wouldn't, maybe another laser is better, but you might have a huge market for cutting big pieces of wood. If that's the case, thick pieces of wood and large pieces, the F2 UV is not going to be the best laser for you. Now, if you were trying to do anything with glass, crystal, or anything where you're marking anything that's just sensitive, like plastics, things like that, where you don't want it to melt, marking on PLA, engraving, that kind of stuff, that's where this F2 UV is really going to shine. If you're doing glasses on anything other than a UV laser, I guarantee you, you're not doing it as well as a UV laser can. I say that with the laser realm. Yes, I know you can sandblast. Sandblasting is a whole other thing. I'm not talking about sandblasting. However, I will say that some of the detail that I could get and with the depth, the controlled depth, when I do my engraving, when I do photos on glass, that does beat any sandblasting engraving. So, it's hit and miss. It depends on what your business goals are. I do see that you have a P3 and an F1 Ultra. So you kind of have with the F1 Ultra, you do have the diode. You have a 20-watt diode. You have the 20-watt fiber. So you can still do your metal. You can still do your challenge coins and things like that. It's just going to take, longer. With my on challenge coins with my F2 Ultra, it takes me about an hour. With my F1 Ultra, it takes me about 3 hours. So you still have the capabilities to do it. Now, one thing I don't like doing is glass on anything else. I can do it on my F2 Ultra or my F1 Ultra with the diode laser, but I have to sit there and I have to coat it with some either the shortcuts or I use the tempera paint and airbrush that on, and I have to clean it up after, and I have to wait for it to dry, and it's just a hassle. I don't feel like dealing with that hassle. UV is the way to go. Ever since I switched to a UV laser for glass, I have never, I don't do glass any other way typically. You also, with those other lasers, you're not doing more of a niche item, but getting to that, if you get into that niche and you do pet memorials, wedding gifts, things like that, that subsurface crystal engraving, you can make a whole market with that. So it will expand your capabilities if you got the UV over the other ones, but I don't want to suggest which one you get. I love my UV laser. I love having the multiple tools. And like I was mentioning, these hat patches, like I did this silver one. I didn't cut it in the same pass and I bumped it, which is why it's not straight. But that's a different matter. But like I did that Lone Star black to silver, and I don't even need to clean it. Like, so when I go to my events now, I don't have to sit there and scrub it with the LA Awesome and clean that up. And it's dry. I just wipe it real quick with a towel, throw it right on the hat. I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to worry about the charred edges or pre-cutting patches or anything like that. And with the glass, like with the UV laser, I don't need to do any coating. That's it. It just kind of, it marks glass naturally, which we could do a glass next, like a drinking glass. But it took me about 15 minutes or 12 minutes, 10 minutes maybe to do the glass block. It varied in time. I want to say it depends which one you do. So there's different methods. You could do the dot scanning, which is this one, dotting, or you could do scanning, which was this one, or you can even do a fill. Now, if you do it fill, it'll look like a solid figure inside. Whereas you can see this is just made up of a lot of little dots. And I'll be putting out a video of crystal engraving and stuff like that, and kind of a how-to and kind of demo of that in the future. I just don't. I'm waiting on my spare crystal pieces, otherwise I'd have more. But it took about anywhere between 6 and 15 minutes. Now, if I did a solid fill on it, it would take a bunch longer. It takes about 30, 40 minutes, I think, was what the time it took to do. But I was going to fill it up and down. Can I engrave black granite? That is a good question. And oddly, I believe I have a piece of black granite sitting. So black-ish granite. I mean, it's kind of marbled, but I'll let you know when this is done. We'll go ahead and try some black granite. I can tell you I've done the slate coasters, and I get insane detail on that. All right. Now we're done with our ornament, though. Check that out. Right off of the laser itself. Notice how you don't have any flaking. You don't have any chipping. There you go. And the other thing is, while you do need to stay within the focal point, I mean, that did a pretty wide engraving on that. So it's gonna, if you do, I know the holidays only come once a year, but it's still a pretty good moneymaker around this time of year. So there we go. We got our ornaments. This is how it looks unfilled. This is how it looks filled. I did red paint inside of this one. I'm gonna go through and do some white paint inside this one and give that away as a client gift. Can I engrave in black granite? Well, we'll figure that out. We'll try that. I'm sure we can. Josh, the picture that I did, it's a 3D model, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna create like a little tutorial on how I went from a photo to a 3D model to a ready to go, throw it in a glass block engraving. That will be a little class or something that I do in the near future. So might as well just jump right on the screen. I'll just throw another canvas on here. I'm gonna go ahead and test that black granite for you. This is how I figure things out, guys. I'm not some like naturally gifted, prodigy where I just go to sleep at night and wake up knowing settings for different materials. I do testing. It's part of it. We'll do that real quick. This should be fine. Yeah, I'm gonna go with you can. Marking it. Yeah, I had marked that black granite right here. And again, that's just with some settings that I have kind of just literally spitballed live with y'all. So you can mark it, but if you want to dial some stuff in, that's something you want to that's something you're just gonna need to practice on. I'm sure playing with different frequency, speed, power, and different settings like that, that'll all affect how it processes too. Yeah, I'm not positive of what the results are going to look like, but there's a second pass that's way faster, and now it's lighter too. Show you that. So I actually did that way faster, and that's how it came out. I'll go ahead and run that again so y'all can see it. And there's a second pass just to brighten it up a little more. But yeah, this is the one I did the second time. This was the first time. I did see someone mention earlier your safety glasses. That is going to be important. I do suggest getting yourself some UV safe safety glasses, especially if you're going to do anything with the door open, because UV you ain't going to see it. I think recall right, the spectrum is 355 nanometers, and that you need to make sure you have glasses that are going to protect against that spectrum. If you buy a nice set of laser goggles, it'll protect against multiple. This one does, it protects against my fiber lasers, my diode, as well as my UV lasers. So that's going to about wrap it up. I don't have a scrap piece of acrylic right here. Let me see if I can go. If you just reach out to me, I'll go ahead and maybe knock something out for some. Go ahead and book a demo with me. How about that? Book a demo with me. We can do some clear acrylic on the demo. I just don't have any clear acrylic on my desk, and I don't know what drawer or how much of it I have. Yeah, Miles, you just hit the nail on the head. A test grid. You guys definitely run your test grids. That's how you're going to get different colors, different results, and different things like that. That's how I figured out that I could get different shading on Leatherette. So, I just did test grids, played with it, and then liked how it came out. And I, take pictures, save my settings, and go from there. But that's about going to wrap it up. Unless y'all have any specific questions. If y'all have any specific questions, y'all can reach out to me. If y'all like this live stream, let me know in the chat, or go ahead and drop a subscribe, and then we can go from there. If you subscribe, you'll get notifications of my new videos that when I get them posted out. And I am going to have a full review video of this posted out very soon. As in, when I get home today, that's what I'm going to go do. If y'all have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Go ahead and jump in. If you go ahead and jump in that description and you want to book a demo with me, or if you haven't pre-ordered yet, go ahead and do that, because that's going to get the best pricing and all that jazz. And when it releases, if you purchase it, they're gonna do the same thing as with the F2 Ultra, and they're gonna start shipping right away for the first X number of people. I just don't know how many. That's about it. I appreciate y'all stopping by. And again, if y'all have any questions, just feel free to reach out. You can message me on Facebook, drop me a message here, or comment here. I can reach out to you. My website's diodedesignsllc.com. I have a message me link there. Y'all need anything, holler at me. But until next time, this has been fun. I'll see y'all.